Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My family of four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate from there. I'm relatively new to RVing, and a few years ago, I convinced my wife that for an anniversary present, we should buy a used tent trailer from some friends of ours. Ever since then, we have fallen head over heels for the RV life, and we now find ourselves towing a 26-foot Jayco travel trailer. So grab yourself a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. Personally, I am drawn to Skoolies and intrigued by those who build them. So when I spied one in the East Glacier St. Mary KOA campground this past July, I made it a point to go over and introduce myself. I had the pleasure of sitting down with John and Jennifer Vickers, two nomads who are on their first adventure after completing their Skoolie build a mere 2 weeks earlier. The Vickers are from Bloomington, Indiana. John Vickers is the founding director emeritus of IU Cinema. He has a film history of opening cinemas since the early 90s, but pre-retirement sabbatical is where they find themselves now. They're looking to decide and figure out where their next steps are. Being nomadic has been a dream of theirs for over 30 years, but with responsibilities of children and work, they're finally getting around to doing it. Jennifer Vickers is a semi-retired graphic designer, also currently taking a sabbatical. The couple has a deep passion for film, and in 1996, after spending more than 2 years restoring an old movie theater, they opened Vickers Theater in Three Oaks, Michigan, both while juggling full-time responsibilities and nurturing a growing family. The Vickers did everything, from booking the films, running the projection booth, selling concessions, all with their kids in tow. The Vickers Theater became a cultural hub in Southwest Michigan, screening independent films and functioning as a gallery space for local artists. It would eventually be open 5 days a week and host the popular Sounds of Silence outdoor film festival. What started as a hobby for John had blossomed into so much more. Quote, "I tell people it's my accidental career," John said. Today we are sitting down at the picnic table in the campsite here in beautiful East Glacier, Montana, and they kindly agreed to share their story. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm very curious to hear about your bus. Whose idea was it to build out a Skoolie?
Jennifer she's been game to kind of follow ideas along for our family many times, and some of them a little wacky. But I think Jennifer was, and you can speak for yourself, but was game for the idea of traveling and maybe living in something.
Yes.
And the school bus, I think the thought of a school bus has been there for at least a few years. And for the last few years before we bought it, I guess we'd been watching govdeals.com and other sites to try to see what might be out there and what things would cost. But as far as jumping into the build, we went in completely blind. We hadn't done that much research on builds prior to buying it. We thought we could figure it out, but then we heavily researched as we were building.
Okay.
We have a little bit of background in building things. I mean, we built an art house cinema out of an existing small town cinema that had closed, and then we built a home into a loft space of which used to be a 1890s factory. So we had some history of being able to build things, but nothing really like this.
Okay. How did you find your bus, actually?
Yeah, I mentioned govdeals.com, and what this is a website that municipalities use all over the country to sell things that they're no longer using. So it could be universities, it could be school districts, it could be counties, whatever. And we ended up finding our bus, S.M.A.R.T bus, at a school district in Austin, Texas. It was really cheap. We bought it for $2,500.
Awesome.
It had some brake issues, but it was low miles, 2007 with only 49,000 miles. And even though Austin was 1,000 miles from us, we knew that it would be a Texas bus and kind of a salt-free zone, and we thought it would be, good underneath. So it seemed like that was the one to pull the trigger on, and we did.
And then did you go down to Austin and drive it back, or did you just have it shipped from Austin to your home in Bloomington?
Yeah, no, we wanted the real experience, and so flew down to Austin before Christmas in 2019. And our oldest son, Max, from Seattle, flew down to meet me down there, and then we drove it back in a day and a half or 2 days.
Rolled out sleeping bags? I mean, because at that time, I'm assuming it's still like green seats and the whole nine?
Yeah. I don't think it was too comfortable for Max, but for me it was okay in the driver's seat. And no, we ended up getting a hotel the one night in Little Rock, Arkansas.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay, so now you have it in your driveway. You start demo, you start ripping the seats out and doing all that. How did you start to do the layout? Did you use like a sketch software or use Illustrator in your case to kind of start? Or
pen and paper?
Yeah, pen and paper. And I didn't want to really text Jennifer. I mean, Jennifer was working full-time and I was still working full-time at the time. And so we did pen and paper, and then also we really crudely designed in Excel, just, with the blocks and again, that was crude, but it served our purpose. And so that helped us with the layout. And the layout, we wanted something a little different than a lot of the small Skoolies that we had seen. So most of them are kind of galley, where they're open all the way to the back. And we knew that we wanted a bathroom in ours. Yep. And so we knew that would cut in somewhere, but we put the bathroom right in the center of the bus, pretty much. We knew that we wanted to use the emergency exit as a skylight for our bathroom. And so that kind of helped shape the two sections of the space. And then we built around that.
Well, and thank you, by the way, for giving me the tour of your Skoolie, but it's very open and airy. It's very like just your colors, the palette you used, and the way you kind of lay in the natural wood that you used for your countertop just gives it a really open, airy feeling, where a lot of times in stuff I've seen, they look dark.
Thanks. I mean, Jennifer gets the credit for that.
I do not.
You do too.
Well, it's a small space, so I guess the lighter colors help create a sense of, I don't know.
Openness. Yeah.
Openness,
No, it was
much
nice.
Brighter.
Yeah, it's definitely much brighter. It's a great bus.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So S.M.A.R.T is you got the periods in between. Am I looking at an acronym, or kind of what's the story? How you came up with the name?
Yeah, I wish we could take credit for it, but we inherited the name. So S.M.A.R.T came from the school district in Austin. It was the Eames School District. And we don't know what the acronym stands for. We did our research online to try to find it, but it must have been some kind of a program bus for this Austin school district. And so we've just adapted, and S.M.A.R.T means many things. It doesn't mean just one thing. And so, one day it could mean see more art, and another day it could mean slow-moving.
Austin. Reliable transportation.
Yeah, I don't know. So we try to play with that on our social media as well, and just to be playful with the name S.M.A.R.T. But we really like it. It just kind of has grown on us, and so now we're Smart Bus.
Yeah, well, I like it, and painting it white probably also was a very, I think, well played. Keeps it cooler and.
Yeah, and again, we don't take credit for that. So this was a white.
Actually, it came white. It wasn't a yellow school bus.
Oh, and that's one of the things that drew me to the bus. When I bought it, because it was white. It had this S.M.A.R.T on the side. It was $2,500. It just everything was aligning really well. On that purchase.
Yeah, that's great. Now let's talk about the build a little bit more. Total time to completion. How long did it take you?
Yeah, I wish I had logged. I wish I had logged everything. I mean, we have over a year into it, about a year and 2 months in the planning. We started doing some demo in 2019. Well, no, early 2020, but really didn't start building it out until I left my full-time job at Indiana University in October of 2020. So 8 months of hard builds. And then, a few months of planning and demo before that.
So that hard build, were you still working full-time? So you're doing full-time work, Jennifer, and then nights and weekends and whatever you're...
Yeah, no, I left my job in October 1st, 2020. And so this was one of my many projects that I wanted to accomplish after I left work. But really started working on it full-time over the last 6 months because we planned this trip, and we knew that we had a deadline now, a real deadline, and so and one thing that I should say, and any Skoolie builder will back this up, that everything takes longer than you ever imagine, and Well, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I spent literally like weeks under the bus between demo and preparing for tanks, hanging tanks, plumbing tanks, wiring. I mean, literally weeks on my back under the bus. And so you don't really think about those things, when you're in the design phase. We took this on during COVID building prices, right? And the cost of construction is going up, astronomically.
Are you super mechanically inclined? So when you got the school bus, were you able to kind of go through it and make sure from like you said, the brakes were a little shady at best, but I mean, as far as the motor being...
Yeah, mechanically, as far as auto mechanics, no.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have an engineering degree, and I think I can kind of figure things out or understand things.
Yep.
So we know what it takes to maintain the bus, and we know what it takes to, prepare and for a trip, I guess. But as far as doing the work, I'll take it to a truck repair shop if I need to. I'm not that savvy on things like that.
Neither am I. So.
I wish I were.
Yeah. Different story, different time. I think the biggest thing with those things that I just am trying to give myself permission is it's okay just to jump in.
Yeah.
Right? It's just jump in and do it, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm either going to make it worse, which is, but
Well, the same
learn.
and the same with the construction as well. You mentioned that you might not have the skills to build something out, but I mean, let's face it. I mean, with time and patience and good common sense, I mean, chances are you could figure things out and do it, and that's how we kind of view these things. And many buses are DIY, and this is DIY in many ways, but we try to also make it look like it's professionally done.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's beautiful.
Thanks.
You guys are 2 weeks into your trip now, right? So I mean, you just wrapped this project and hit the open road.
Yeah, we're actually 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks done with the bus, and we're a week into our trip. So, I mean, we just wrapped this up right before our trip.
Talk about jumping in.
Still kind of wrapping it up.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of a punch list left of little things to...
Yeah, and I bet most Skoolie builders would say that their bus will never be finished, right?
Just like houses.
Yeah, just like houses.
Yeah, that's where command strips come in handy, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, command strips come in really handy. Thank you, 3M.
Yeah.
So what is your plan for your adventure? You said you guys doing a year, tentatively? Is that kind of... Talk to me about your plan. What's your adventure?
Yes. A year on and off of travel. First couple of weeks is just, heading west to visit our son, visiting as many national parks as we can. I think most of America is doing the same thing this month. And then... probably some trips on and off, and hopefully this winter spend some time somewhere warmer.
Yeah, so this first trip is 5 weeks, and to the upper Northwest, and then down the coast, and then kind of making our way back, seeing family. And then, as Jen said, maybe 3 months in the summer trying to find a warmer climate from the Midwest. And then beyond that, I mean, we'll see how it goes. These are really kind of test trips for us.
Where do you think where's your turnaround point after you visit your son in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, so from Seattle, then we start heading south, and we're going to spend 3 or 4 days going down the Pacific coast to the Redwoods. And then we'll spend a night in the Redwoods, and then kind of mosey over to Yosemite for a few days. And then we're going to spend a week in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, with family. And then we're going to come back to Utah, Moab, and do Arches and Canyonlands.
In the fall.
Well, no, we're going to do that still on this trip, and then we're going to make our way back to Indiana.
Okay.
Big trip.
Utah in August.
I know.
I tent camped, and I was pre-kids, and we were tent camping, and Susie and I were like midday, we're like, we got to go. And so we went and found a bar and basically just sat in a bar for the AC.
So we spent the weekend of the 4th in the Badlands, and it was about 100 degrees, and we don't have air conditioning in Smart Bus. So I think
That's
we had
to be the next upgrade.
We got it. Yeah, it will. We did get a taste of that, though, but we survived.
That's good.
So one thing that we did, we signed up for Harvest Hosts. Do you know about them? Okay.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah, and so we've stayed at 3 wineries so far, and a beautiful one in Minnesota that we were right on a lake. It was breezy, lots of trees, and it was the nicest setting that we've stayed in so far. Actually, a free night in this winery.
That's great. That's wonderful. What's been your key takeaways, your key learnings from the whole adventure, from your concept to your completion? Like, what's that big learn?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a big one. One thing that we're forced to do a little bit is slow down, which is good because our lives were busy. But one of the things that's forced us to slow down is we do have a governor on this engine, and that keeps us at about 62.5 miles per hour. So we are in the slow lane most of the time, getting past, and that's okay. I mean, we're just taking in the scenery as we're traveling. So thinking about deadlines or no deadlines, and thinking about the pressure to get to a destination and things like that. I mean, we've been kind of forced to slow down. Good. And that's one takeaway. But Jen, do you have others?
I think after John installed the solar and hooked up the batteries, that was the coolest thing to see energy being generated. That was amazing.
Yeah, and we have some tweaks to do on our solar system, but yeah, it was pretty cool to know that you're creating or generating your own energy. So that was a really
that self-reliance is, that's pretty affirming to be able to do that. That's great.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, the one thing that was been really good for us is we have what they call a toad. We have we're not towing a vehicle, but we have strapped onto the back of the bus a small motorcycle, and we found one of the lightest road bikes on an auction, the Gov Deals auction again.
GovDeals.com.
But we bought a 125 Suzuki, which is only 240 pounds, and so the bus hauls it really well. And that's been really great to have to ride to trailheads and have fun on once we...
Have you guys done much boondocking besides staying at campgrounds?
Just the wineries for
the
Harvest Host.
Yeah,
we haven't done anything,
kind of... BLM or...
Yeah, we haven't done BLM yet. And I think probably our winter trip will be mostly boondocking. Okay. But this is... being that we're going to be at so many national parks, I mean, we planned this one out and wanted to make sure we had
what you needed.
spots. Yeah.
And the winter, are you guys any ideas yet on where you're thinking? Like, are we talking Key West? Are we talking Arizona?
Oh, that sounds great.
Key West sounds great, and we do have family in Florida, but I think probably Southwest is where we're going to be most of the time. Arizona, likely. Right?
Sedona,
Sure.
Flags. I mean, remember, Flagstaff's high, though,
Yeah.
elevation-wise,
Right.
so
Yep.
it actually... I didn't know that, and I drove to Mardi Gras after I graduated college. Me and two buddies drove from Seattle to Mardi Gras and back in my 1970 Volkswagen bus.
Oh, nice.
I had the camper bus, right? So I was doing van life before it was even a thing.
Yeah, you were.
But we rolled into Flagstaff one night to go to the Grand Canyon and woke up and our water gallon jugs had all frozen.
Oh,
We're
man.
freezing. We're like, it's Arizona. It's not so,
Yes.
wait, we're at
Yep.
9,000 feet or what? All right, that makes more sense now. So
Yeah, probably.
VW.
One of the tips that I've learned online, but I've noticed here as well, is just make sure that there's good airflow, and because we are in a metal box, right? And even with the fluctuations in temperature here, it went from almost 90 down to the high 50s last night. Just making sure there's airflow so you don't get condensation, and that's worked out well for us. Keeping a good airflow.
anything that I didn't ask that you guys want to share?
Okay. Yeah, and for us, this is a real experiment. We're not full-time nomadic, we're dipping our toes into it, and we still have a family connection in Bloomington, Indiana, and but this is a really I love being on the road. It's so pleasing to be behind the wheel and seeing new things, and even if they're it seems like nothing to everybody around. It's so good to be out of your own space and exploring and experiencing new things. And so I guess for me, I'm hoping that we have a lot of good times in the future on the road, and I'm sure we will.
It's funny. So I was scrolling through your Insta feed last night, and I noticed one of you posted about the road books.
Yes, that was me.
Travels with Charlie, hands down, is absolutely my favorite book, and actually my Wilderness First Aid episode. So in each of my shows, I do a segment called Pit Stop, which is just a shorter little segment. It's about 5 to 10 minutes. And in the one that's most current right now in the Pit Stop, I talk about wanderlust, and I read the first 2 pages of Travels with Charlie because I never could explain it to myself or to others about this innate like metronome of like, let's go see. I want to go see what's beyond the horizon. I want to go. Let's go. And reading those first 2 pages of Travels with Charlie, I'm like,
nice, no way.
he gets it.
Yeah.
You know
so
what I
great.
mean? Like, he gets it. And
That's so great. I love
I'm
it.
middle-aged now, and it doesn't go away. And, you know, he talks about salinity will hopefully do it. And at 58, it still isn't. And I'm like, oh, boy, I'm in trouble, right? I mean,
You're sharing it with your family, though.
no, I told
so,
100%.
right,
So,
yeah.
and if I'm instilling wanderlust in them, then I feel like I actually did my job okay. So,
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
I think Jack Kerouac, you know, back in college days is what exposed me or got me thinking about wanderlust. And but then, yeah, I love Steinbeck's, the way he talks about it. But I think it's been in our blood for a long time. I mean, we tried to take our kids on road trips as often as we could, and we went to the Keys often in a bus. So we were doing bus life in a 15 seat passenger van, camping in that, and yeah. So I'm hoping that, you know, that's part of our lives for the rest of it.
well, I think S.M.A.R.T is absolutely going to get you there where you want to go. I mean, I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Hey, well, you guys, thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with me. If people want to follow along, how do they find you on social media to follow along?
It's at S.M.A.R.T Bus, and S.M.A.R.T, it's S.M.A.R.T bus.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for our pit stop. And today I'm going to be sharing with you one of our most go-to dinner time meals, Cincinnati chili. The aroma of the sauce fills our trailer, taunts our olfactory bulb, and gets our mouths watering. For us, Cincinnati chili has ties to our family, as I've got a father and a brother who originally hailed from the area, and they are the ones who introduced my mom, sister, and I to this great dish. My wife and I now serve this up to our children, and it is a staple of ours throughout the year. When we go camping, we will often make the sauce in advance, freeze it in a gallon Ziploc, and then just add it to the crock pot the day of. It makes for a super simple and hearty meal at the campsite, and for dinner, all we have to do is boil water and cook angel hair pasta in 3 minutes. Just what is Cincinnati chili? Well, according to Cincinnati food critic Julie Neeson, she wrote this excerpt for 91.7 WVXU. To really understand Cincinnati chili, you need to take a look at its origins. Cincinnati chili is not a descendant of Texas-style chili, but instead of a Greek dish called pastizo, which is layered pasta, cheese, and meat sauce, flavored with cinnamon, allspice, and clove. It is also closely related to salsicchima, a tomato-based sauce similar in style to an Italian bolognese, but with the sweet Greek spice profile. In the 1920s, immigrants opening restaurants were looking to adapt their own food, familiar foods. Macedonian immigrant Tom Kirjev began serving this sort of chili on top of hot dogs at his restaurant, Empress, named for the burlesque theater next door to his original hot dog stand. Again, if you've got your mind's eye on a big old bowl of Texas-style chili, that is not what this is. It has a very different spice profile. Ron White has even performed a bit about this fabled dish.
I was making late night conversation, and I said, boy, you know, it seems like there's a whole lot of chili places here. You wouldn't think there would be, would you? And he goes, I'll have you know the Cincinnati area is the chili capital of the world.
We love taking this to a campsite. It makes for a super easy crock-pot meal, and we especially love it when the weather outside is more of what one thinks of when we mention we are from the Pacific Northwest. If you're looking to change up the meals you are serving at camp, I would recommend you do a recipe search for Cincinnati chili. Even our kids love it. In our next episode in 2 weeks, I'm going to begin a mini-series on our American West tour that we just took this past July. From Glacier National Park to Yellowstone National Park, I will share it all. What we did, where we stayed, and if you're thinking about taking a trip to either of these 2 parks, this will be a great show for you. In the meantime, please be sure to share with your friends and family about this podcast, and head over to Apple Podcasts and leave this show a rating and a review. If you've not yet subscribed to the show, please do so. That way you'll never miss an episode. Now get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again in 2 weeks with our next episode. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And I sure would appreciate if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.